Okay, today we are doing this assignment here, standard deviation, calculating and applying it. You're already watching the video. So the first thing you want to do is open up the steps here for calculating standard deviation. So go ahead and download this document. Okay, so once you have it open, you should see this, and we're going to be going through the various steps right here as I show you on the calculator how to calculate standard deviation. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back and open up the assignment. Again, remember to make sure to download it. Don't hit this link, download it so you can take notes. Okay, so there's the assignment. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and there's two question sets in the assignment. The first one, you get a table with various values, and we're going to figure out information about that, calculate the standard deviation. And the second one, we're going to get a question set where we're trying to figure out information about data sets that have a specific mean and a specific standard deviation. Okay, but first we're going to learn how to actually calculate the standard deviation in questions 1 through 3. Okay, step number 1. So what we need to do is we've got the data here, right? And we've learned different ways to calculate the mean and the standard deviation using Desmos, but now we're going to use the graphing calculator to do it. So if you're in class, you probably have access to a graphing calculator. So go ahead and grab one of those. But if you don't, I've put a link to a graphing calculator right here that I'm going to go ahead and use for this assignment. Okay, when you open it up, it looks like this. Some ads might pop up like this one here, but I've went ahead and I've hit this little arrow. It knocks that out. I've also made mine full screen. Okay, so what are we going to do to calculate the standard deviation of the data from the assignment that you see right here? I guess I haven't opened up the assignment. So let's go ahead and open up the assignment if you haven't. Remember, click the download arrow, not the link. Actually, you've already opened this one up. Sorry. We're looking for the assignment. Here's the assignment. Remember to click the download arrow, and that way you can mark it up if you want and open it in Kami, or you can mark it up with this little button right here. Maybe maybe I'll just do that. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so here we go. So what we need to do is we need to first of all find the mean of the AQI value. And again, you may want to go ahead and read this here. We've got a bunch of AQI values over a period of time in Renton, over a period number of days. And we're trying to figure out the mean AQI value. That's the mean of all these numbers here. Now, we know how to do it again in Desmos or on a calculator just by adding them up and dividing by 10. But we're also going to be able to want to calculate the standard deviation, which is the graphing calculator makes it a lot easier, as you're about to see. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and click on this calculator steps. Again, if you haven't opened it up, it's right here. And the calculator steps, we have the various steps right here. What I've done is when you look at the calculator, either here or if on your graphing or on the online one, if you open that one up, if you look at this various buttons here, that corresponds to the steps over here. So you can kind of refer to that as we're going through it. So the first thing we have to do is enter the data into our calculator. Okay, and here's the commands. You can notice the commands are going to be in these brackets. Okay, so I put the commands in the brackets. So the first thing says to enter the data, you want to hit the button stat. Where's stat? I put the main commands right here and a little line in red that points to where it is so you don't have to spend so much time finding it. Okay, so let me go back to my calculator and toggle over to mine, and I hit stat, and then it tells us on our steps, where do our steps go? To hit 1. So I'm going to hit 1, but there it is. And then it brings us to this screen right there. So this screen right here is a data entry screen. And right now you see a bunch of empty columns. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of data in there. All I'm going to do is type a number and hit enter. So 55, enter. Let's say 80, enter. So let's say I open it up, or 800, enter. Let's say I open it up and there's data in here. What I want to do is I want to clear it out. So see this dark darkened cursor, I guess, spot right there. What you want to do is you want to put it into the column header L1. So I'm going to click on this arrow key and see how it moves up to the top. And when I get it to the top, I can clear out the whole column at once by going clear, enter. Okay, and now I've got a nice fresh column. So we're going to always enter the data into L1, the first column. And so now it's ready to enter the data in. So now I'm going to go get the data. And the first few data, first few points for the AQI is 82 and then 97, 74. So I'll show you the first two and then I'll pause it. So 82 and 97. So I'm going to go back over to the calculator and I hit in 82, enter, see? And then 97, enter, and that's the values right there. So now what I want to do is I'm going to enter in the rest of the values. I'm not going to make you watch me do it because it's kind of slow on the online calculator, but I'm going to enter all these values in and then I'll come back and start the video after I do that. Okay, so I've got all the data in my calculator. It looks like this, and just to confirm that I've entered in all the values, I know I've got 10 values, and right now the cursor is right here. It's underneath the last value that I entered, which was 72. So if it's in this column, it means that would be where I would put the 11th value. But I only have 10 values, so that tells me I've put in enough values. Also remember, one of the most important things when it comes to data entry is one of the most common mistakes people make is they make an error entering the data. So you're always going to go back and confirm that you've entered in all the correct data. Just do a quick glance at the data when you only have 10 numbers, for example. When you have thousands, that's a different issue. All right, so the data is entered in. What do we do next? So now we want to run, we're going to go back to our sheet that tells us what to do. And let's see where it is. Okay, so what we're going to do next is that we're going to get the statistics. Basically for us, we're looking for the standard deviation and the mean. So we're supposed to hit this command here, stat, and then the arrow. Here's stat is right there. And then the arrow they're referring to is over here. And we're going to highlight calc. And then we're going to hit 1. And then we're going to scroll to highlight calculate and then hit enter. So take a moment to think about those four. You can do one at a time, but since I got to go over toggle, it's kind of a little bit cumbersome. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to hit stat. Now we need to go to this calc to highlight the calc. So I use the right arrow button. It's already on 1. We need to hit 1 because we're going to get stats. And then we need to hit calculate. So I'm going to go arrow down to that until it's highlighted. And then we can hit enter. And ta-da, we get all kinds of good statistics on our data. But today, the ones we care about for this assignment are two. We want the mean and we want the standard deviation. So going back to our steps, it gives us the symbols right here. The symbol for standard or for the mean is this, and the symbol for standard deviation is this right here. Okay, so let's go back to our results and see what we can find. So I see that my mean is the very top number, 75.9, and the standard deviation of the population, 12.7. So there you go. Those are the statistics. So now we can go back and start answering some of the questions. Okay, so here's the assignment. So if you remember, we just saw that the mean was 75.9 and that the standard deviation was 12.7. Okay, so the next question we get is going to be asking us about, based upon the sample data, the predicted range, and I say predicted because it's predicted based upon a data set that has that kind of statistics. The predicted range of values within one standard deviation is what? Okay, well, one standard deviation is going to be the amount above the mean by one standard deviation, and our standard deviation is 12.7. So what does that mean? It means that I can take our mean right here and go 75.9, and I can get a range. If you remember from the assignment the other day, the mean was right in the middle, so that's a 75.9. But one standard deviation above would be 75.9 plus the standard deviation, which is this, right? So we take this over here, 12.7, and if we add those two together, what do we get? We get 88.6 if you use your calculator on those numbers. So what does that tell us? It tells us it's that's the maximum of the range from 1 standard deviation above, but we also have to do below. So we go 75.9 minus this 12.7, and that's equal to what? That's equal to 63.2. Okay, so that tells us that the predicted range of values within 1 standard deviation is 1 standard deviation from 1 standard deviation below, which is the 63, to 1 standard deviation above, which is the 88.6, which would be choice C. Okay, so again, what you do is you take the mean, 75.9, and first you add 12.7 to get the top thing. Okay, and then you subtract it to get the bottom one, which is a 63.2. Okay, so that's how you do that question set. Okay, so the next kind of question set gives us a scenario where they tell us certain types of data, in this case, daily maximum temperatures were recorded in Renton, and we get a mean temperature of 75 and a standard deviation of 6. So the first thing we want to do is we want to use our normal distribution chart. Let me make this bigger here and fill it out. And remember, the mean is going to be at 0. So this 75 right there goes right there. Okay. And then to go from here to get one above, we take 75 plus what? Plus the 6 degrees, and we get 81. So 81 plus 6, 87 plus 6, 93. Now, to go this way, we have to subtract minus 6. So we get 69, 63, and 57. So that's the first step, fill in the chart. Now we can answer questions. What percent of the temperatures are greater than 81? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find where 81 is, and that would be this value right here. And then we're going to say what percent are greater? Well, greater is to the right of that. So we add up this number, and this number, and when we do that, we would get a value of 15.87. Now, this little value right here that you see is not 14, it's 0.14% here and here, okay? So let's see. Okay, so the next question says, what percent of the temperatures are less than 63? Let's go back to our chart. All right, let me do a different color for 63. How about that? So 63 is right here. Okay, what percent are less than 63? Well, that's right there. Remember, less is to the left. So that would be 2.14 plus 0.14. That would be 2.88. Now, when we're doing in between, like number 6, now we've got between two temperatures, 57 and 69. Okay, so what is between 57 and 69? Well, here is 57 and here's 69. So it's between the two, okay? So that means it would be between this starting and ending point. So it'd be all the percents in between, like that. You add those two together, you get 15.87. So if we go back to the assignment, that would be A, okay? All right, guys, so that's how you do it. I give you some practice sets of each type of question. So go ahead and do those, and that'll help you to prepare for the quiz and the assignment.